Like, I swear, since AEW has started, it feels, I don't know, there's an excitement in the air about, like, you know, people moving across. And obviously we had the, we had the exodus of, like, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, like, people coming into AEW that kind of made a big splash, right? And to have Cody Rhodes be the first one to go the other way, I think is extra fascinating, just because he's not just, like, a guy, you know? Like, he's the guy who started
guy.
it. Like,
yeah, this is he was the pioneer behind this. Like,
mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, like when you saw the statement that he released and he thanks Tony Khan, and like he really does put the full like credit to Tony Khan, but that
Yeah.
can't be said because if it wasn't for Cody, like, would AEW be anywhere near? Like, if Tony Khan had just set up AEW, fair in mind, he would have got like some absolute class talent and class stars.
Right.
He could just still even had Jericho at that point. And bear in mind as well, Jericho was like really flitting from his last WWE stint straight into
Oh, yeah.
AEW. So that was like a huge, huge surprise. But it's the fact that it was Cody. It was Cody who was the one like standing up for all this. He went through the law. I was going to say the lawsuit, but like trying to get his name and everything, like all that. And you think, what the hell? Like, of all the people you thought would be the first person to do the back, not the backtrack. I don't want to say the backtrack because it's not a
It's
backtrack.
not backtrack. It's like, it's just going the other way.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, Cody hasn't been
completely.
in WWE since, when did he leave? Was it like
God, it was like
2018?
2018, 90.
It was at least before 18, because 18 was all in was in 2018, in September of
Okay, so it would have been
2018.
17, I would have said then, because it was like a good wee while.
Because he was on the indies and stuff for quite a while
Yeah.
before All In happened, because he
Oh
had
no,
built
wait,
himself
it's
into
actually,
like,
it must have been 16 then. It must have been 16 because Cody was there when I was doing What Culture.
oh,
So
right.
yeah, so it must have been 2016. So yeah, I mean, that's like a good, I mean, that's 8 years. That's terrifying to even just say that. Like, I feel sick. That can't be right. I've not
Is
done
it
the math.
6 years?
6. Okay, thanks.
Still,
Yeah.
though, doesn't it seem like 6 years seems like it should feel a lot longer ago, doesn't it? Like,
I know.
it feels like
Right?
yesterday.
It does feel like yesterday, but also, again, weirdly, like
Also
10
a
years ago,
million years
like,
ago, yeah.
it's so strange. But this is the thing. This is why it's so bizarre. We were just quickly chatting off air, and we were saying how, I was like delighted because I was like, oh my God, technically I was kind of right. Like when I was like, yeah, Cody's coming back for the Rumble and all this. Like a Rumble you can understand, right? Because you
Yeah.
can see that at that wee fleeting in and out. See you later. You're not here for a long time. But this is sounding like this is actually like a re-signing. Like there's going to be you
Yeah.
wonder as well how WWE is going to handle somebody like Cody Rhodes, somebody who left, somebody that brought them the biggest competition they've had in decades, and they get him back now. Like there's so much because let's face it, WWE have been known to be quite spiteful
Oh,
with these kind
yeah.
of
Well, and
things.
so has Cody.
So yeah,
Like,
exactly.
both
So
of
well,
them. It was kind of an
exactly.
acrimonious leaving, right? Like, when he left WWE, it wasn't like that was a happy split. Like, he wanted out for a
No.
long time because he'd had to do the Stardust thing, and he wasn't happy about it. And, like, the way that WWE was like, right, so we're going to have War Games now right after you leave, Cody Rhodes, because your dad made it, and we're totally not using that to spite you in any way.
Totally. But
You
then you've
know?
got Cody as well when he's like, oh, hello, here's this big throne that I'm going to smash with a sledgehammer and all, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like now holding out that Trips gets better and we can
You get the
finally
mixed tag.
get that. We can get that. Oh my God, could you imagine? Oh, Brandy and Stephanie. Oh, it would just be a slap fest. I'd love it.
Well, and like the comparisons between Triple H and Cody are not in our heads. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, I mean, he's the one who's smashing thrones with sledgehammers and having a golden shovel and all of this stuff. And it's just kind of wild because, I don't know, I was talking about this with Kenny on the AEW Rundown on Patreon today too. So some of this might be a repeat if you're a Patreon subscriber. Sorry. But that's fine. You get to see my face this time.
Yay!
But it's just, when you think about Cody Rhodes being the first one to kind of like go to WWE from AEW, like to consciously make the decision to go to WWE from AEW, because no one's like done that yet, right? It doesn't surprise me that much that it's him, because Cody Rhodes seems like someone who wants a lot of attention. He wants to be the biggest star. He has not been getting the fan reaction that he wanted, right? Like,
No,
I mean, he did at
not.
first, but lately it's
He
been
did it
like
first. But
he
then
wants
I
to be the
think
biggest babyface, and now everyone's just booing him, and nobody really wants him to be there. He can't challenge for the AEW title, so what better way to make a splash than to be the first one to go back? And then he holds all the cards because he can go to WWE and be like, look, the perception of your company is that no one wants to be there. Like, that's not a perception that they want to have. So if they can steal not just somebody from AEW, but like one of the EVPs who started the company, that looks huge for them. And you know how like political mind games are a constant thing, you know what I mean?
Constantly. I mean, that is really what wrestling is. It's just politics. But the thing is, like, yeah, I totally see what you mean. Like, Cody, I think in some way, sense, shape of the form, put it on himself, like, for his kind of, like, demise, if you can even call it that, in AEW.
Right.
You know, he was just that babyface, or, like, trying to be babyface, but just such a heel mentality. And then also putting himself in, like, every kind of championship, like, you know, wrestling every kind of, like, upstart new name that came in, and then not instantly, I mean, there was some great, like, kind of, like, bouts and stuff between people, but ultimately going over. So, you know, putting himself over too much, you know, you can't really I think that's the kind of one thing when somebody who starts a company and is also very much still in that mindset of being a star within that company, that's the kind of damaging thing, because you're mixing, you know, it's a very dangerous game to play, and I don't think a lot of people can do it well, or get the balance of it, because, you know, ultimately ego plays into it. I'm not saying, I don't know Cody, you know, well at all. I've met him like twice.
Right.
And each time I've met him, he's actually been an extremely humble, really, really nice guy. But you know, you don't know that's the guy you're meeting when you're a fan or you're working with him and stuff like that. This is not the guy who's running shows or, you know, writing like bookings and stuff like that. So you kind of don't know. I think it must be a really hard thing to navigate and to come across well.
And I think you can still be a really pleasant person and have a level of ego too. Like, I don't think they're mutually exclusive, because it seems like Cody had a chip on his shoulder when he left WWE, the way things went down, like we were talking about before. And he does seem to be someone, like, you know, he has his reality show, which I think was supposed to be renewed, but now, like, no one really knows what's going to be happening, because that was kind of a venture with AEW. Like, I asked Kenny this today. I was like, is he able to do reality stuff kind of outside of AEW? Can that be a separate thing? Like, I don't know how those deals would work.
I don't know, because obviously, like, WWE still have, like, total, like, obviously it's not kind of getting done just now, but they still have the ties with E-Network and stuff like that. Obviously with the Bellas, like, kind of getting redone again, like, they still have that tie there. I suppose is one of the biggest channels that they could be working with that. I think the other one would be Bravo.
Probably,
you know, and whether Bravo want to get on board with that, whether that's like their kind of cup of tea. Because I think was it Wags that Brandy was in?
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that might have been a Bravo one. So
is Wags Bravo or E? I'm not sure.
I'm not. If I'm honest, I'm not sure. I think it.
I thought it was E, but I'm not 100% sure either. If anyone knows in the chat, let us know. But either way, though, that would be another big reality. Because, I mean, they want to get their names out there as stars. Like, Cody also has that Go Big show that he does. And that's very, you know, tied into AEW.
Yeah, totally.
Because they've been doing a lot of cross promotion there. It'll be a really interesting.
It's interesting as well to think, like, I don't think I've seen anything when I've been looking for it today to see any kind of like shareholdings and stuff that Cody will still have in AEW, because let's face it, he's not a thick guy. He's not stupid. He will 100% still have some sort of input there. Albeit if it's just a monetary kind of like silent partner thing.
Because I wonder though, like, is he able to have ties to AEW and then like work with WWE?
I think there's ways around it, because you can probably put it. I mean, we could probably put it in his kid's name. You know, the shareholdings and stuff like that. So, do you know what I mean? That's really technically nothing to do with him.
Well, because AEW is not like, it's not a shareholder situation. It's like the Khans own it, which makes it different to WWE.
But he must have some sort of financial input into it, or had done. So I can't imagine him giving that up, especially seeing the absolute, you know, huge success that it's been over the past few years. So I don't know. It was E. Oh, it was E. You're right.
Okay.
But yeah, so like I don't know, like I'm intrigued as to see what ties he has because I physically cannot imagine him just severing all ties and like leaving a monetary kind of thing. Like fair
Well,
enough, I can understand him not wrestling there,
yeah.
but
I don't know if that, like, I don't know if that would really fly, because that seems like a conflict of interest if he would
oh
still
yeah,
have any sort of,
absolutely.
like, ties there or whatever. But, like, part of the conspiracy part of me that I don't think is that much of a conspiracy, like, if you kind of look at rumblings behind the scenes and you look at some of the rumors of him not getting on with the other EVPs, and like you see how separate he's been from all of them,
Yeah,
like publicly and on television,
yeah.
it's kind of like you kind of wonder what the actual story is, and we'll never know, you know what I
No,
mean?
we'll
Like,
never
we'll
know.
never find out, but it's kind of fun to speculate because, like, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Adam Page, like, all of those guys are still interacting with each other. All of those guys are still, like, hanging out on and off screen, like, you always see them talking. And Cody and Brandy have seemed very separate for quite a
Yeah,
while, so
to
you
be
kind of
fair,
wonder if, like, if something was on the outs with them, and if this is kind of a way to, like, gracefully separate and put out really nice messages and thank each other and be like, done and dusted. You know what I mean?
no, I totally get what you mean. And I think as well, like it's interesting to note, like even when it all kind of started up, like AEW, like it always was like Cody's show. And then like
Mm-hmm.
the Young Bucks and like Adam Page and Kenny Omega to an extent, maybe not as much as the others, because he was like I know Adam Page was a singles guy and stuff, but he
Mm-hmm.
always kind of felt like the kind of he's just got a couple of cents in there, that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
really
yeah.
kind of it. He didn't feel like as much of a kind of like starting figure as it, but probably because they were trying to push him so much.
Mm-hmm.
um but I think even then it was the Cody show. I mean, look at Cody's entrance, look at the whole Nightmare Family thing, look at how much it was just a Cody show. It took ages until like Young Bucks ended up getting like a proper same scale like intro as
Mm-hmm.
Cody. Like it
Well, because his
really took a
entrance has
long
always
time.
been the most grandiose and the most,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, crazy,
Showy.
right?
Yeah, it always was, and it took so long to get that. I mean, Kenny Omega, I think, is you can argue that he's a different kind of athlete where he doesn't really need too much. He's already a gimmick. He doesn't need too much like pizzazz and stuff like that. But like the
Mm-hmm.
Young Bucks, like they reek of pizzazz. Like that is their whole
Right.
gimmick is pizzazz. So why did it take so long until we started getting the raining money? Why did it take so long until we were getting all this,
I guess they didn't want to do that as
fanfare?
baby faces, especially since Cody's trying to do it as a baby face, and it's not a baby face thing. You know what I mean? Like, when you look at, again, like, the comparisons to Triple H just kind of write themselves, but if you look at Triple H's like WrestleMania entrances or his
Mm-hmm.
big entrances on pay-per-views and stuff, like, when he does that as a heel, it makes sense, because then he's like, it's going to be the show about me because I'm so full of myself and all that thing. But when Cody's doing it and he's trying to be a babyface, but he's still trying to make the show all about him, I think that's why it hasn't rung true for a while. Because it's just kind of like, you don't feel like a babyface, you feel like someone
No.
who's full of
Well,
yourself.
exactly. I mean, the whole kind of like Nightmare Family thing just never really sat particularly well with me. Like, especially after like the match we had with Cody and Dustin, like that still goes down as one of my favorite matches of all
Oh,
time.
it was
Like just like
fantastic.
like you I mean obviously like they were hugged out and stuff as brothers like at the end and things, but it just felt a bit kind of like all of a sudden it's like right, okay, the family's here, and it's like, oh, what? Like I
Yeah.
feel like we could have done a wee bit more with this, or this, like, not the story ended there in that match, quite honestly, but it just felt a wee bit too chummy. We're back being a family kind of thing all of a sudden, and then just trying to recruit random folk into it, and I was
Uh-huh.
just like, what? You're not like you're
Well, the
taking the kind
Nightmare
of family
Family, and I
thing.
think because so much of that stuff happened on Dark too, that it's like, like, when did Lee Johnson join the family or whatever? Like, I know that he
Yeah.
trains there, and if you're part of the Nightmare Factory, then you know those guys and everything. But that's another
Does that make you
question.
family? Does that make you
Uh,
family? Does that mean that everyone that's been in the heart dungeon is now officially a heart? Like,
like, not
you know,
really. That's not really how
yeah.
it works.
No, that's like it's kind of, I get it, and I understand the kind of camaraderie behind it, and like the kind of, like that's your tie to these people, but
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It just seemed as if like we're going to build a big faction of all our favorite people, and that's it. And it's like,
it's like, but why? Like, why are you together? But AEW kind of
Yeah.
has that problem, right? Because you also look at like the Hardy or the Andrade Hardy family office now.
I know,
I'm sorry. Like, I can't hide the eye rolling. I'm not even Brie Bella this
I know,
week, and I
too.
still am just gonna roll my eyes so completely. Because it doesn't. Why are you together? Like, why does that make any sense, right? But that's another question I have is like Cody Rhodes is legitimately involved in the running of the Nightmare Factory. Like, that's why they rebranded it the Nightmare Factory, because Cody was like coming in and being kind of the figurehead there. So you kind of wonder like what's going to go on with that. Is he going to have any ties there? Is he going to have to like sell his stuff? Like, I don't know, everything feels very up in the air.